I'm first of all very curious to know how did you shift it from human resource to sales and marketing?
So that's one question, Kushi. I think I've been asked a lot because it's these two spaces are very contradictory to each other, right? So I'll put it in a very crisp format here. Is that I have led a very privileged life of 12 years in the corporate, right? So HR I always find is a function of a lot of privilege. You get to be at doing a lot of work, which is, and one of the elements of my work was to design policies, processes, and then give it out to people. So I thoroughly enjoyed I really struggled for the first 2 years, Kushi, because uh, I I went into working with a lot of coaches and consultants and people to help me understand rather, that what is it that I can start my business on. And I did get some good people who could help me how to automate your business, how do you treat it as a business, how do you create a business. But as much as I followed all the processes by working with various people, because I thoroughly believe in learning what you don't know rather than being over smart and everything, there was one element that was always missing. And that element is that it's very different from knowing something that you're good at and letting the other person know that this is how I'm good at and I can change your life or your business or whatever it may be. So this is where I found that just like me, a lot of solopreneurs are also making the same mistake, that thinking that if you're good at something, people will come to you naturally. Right? So that's the worst thing that you could do to yourself and your business, because the mere essence of an entrepreneurship is to generate revenue, which is predictable, which is consistent. Right? And a lot of us want to talk about that, okay, merely 4% of people succeed in their journey of business creation. I very clearly remember an instance, Khushi, that since I could struggle for those 2 years primarily because my partner was in a good job at that point in time and he was getting in the money. But there was one day that he came back home and I saw him really stressed. And I went up to him and I said, Gaurav, kya hua? And he looked up at me and I could see his eyes red. And he was like, nahi ho raha yaar abhi. So just like any other family or a couple, we had bills to pay, we had EMIs to pay, but I felt so miserable in that position that day, is that even though I have a business, I am not in a position to relieve this man of the stress of 17 and 18 hours of work that he's going through. It's like he was going through a major corporate burnout. So that's the day, I think, Kushi, I think something within me shifted. And I said, if 4% of people are succeeding, what is it that they know and I don't? So the only difference between a successful business and a business who does not well is making consistent, predictable sales, learning how to put yourself out there and let the other person realize that I can change your life. It could be business, getting you more sales, whatever it may be. And that, my friend, really turned around my life. And I told myself, the day I crack the selling code, I'm going to help all the solopreneurs like me to get themselves onto the other side of the 4%. So yes, that's my journey of sales and marketing. And I've thoroughly enjoyed the failures, which have been much, much more, and the successes, which I could do for myself.
I was so engrossed in your story. I mean, I think there is a lot to learn, and I think I'm one of the solo entrepreneurs who 100% like need your help at this moment.
I totally get it. I totally get it. I get this from a lot of people because I know somewhere at the back of our mind, Khushi, we do not want to agree that there's a bridge that we need to cross, right? We need to know we are living in an over communicated society, right, where we are bombarded with information. Like, I think I was reading a study and that said an average human adult is bombarded with about 40 GB of data and information every day. So we are living in a society where people are walking online like zombies, like sleepwalking. So you need to know how to get their attention, engage with them, and tell them that this is a solution that can solve your problems. Only then, when you learn to bridge this gap between where you are and where you want to be, can be filled in. So I always say that the journey between where you are and where you want to be is not called anything else apart from motivation, action. It's called selling. So if you're able to sell yourself in every situation of life, you will always succeed in any sphere.
I mean, that's beautiful. But yeah, I'm coming after the call. I'm coming on to you to just get some selling tips.
Go ahead. Throw your questions. I'll be more than happy to answer.
And yeah, that was an incredible story. I'm so proud of you that you like crossed that journey, and here we are having this conversation. And
Absolutely.
yeah, I
Absolutely.
recently got to know your husband is your business partner. I mean, I was not knowing it before.
Okay.
Yeah, so like, I really want to know how are you like managing your personal and professional life? Like, how are you balancing it?
So I think your question has the answer in itself, and that is that he's not my husband, right? That's the first thing, and he never calls me his wife, because these are some designations which have a lot of burden and past emotions attached to it, and which is why everywhere where we talk about each other, we always call ourselves partners, right? Because partner as a word itself says that we are equal at everything. So as much as I am managing the work and house responsibilities, so is he. And I'm totally blessed to have a partner like this, because we both understand our strengths and weaknesses, and we build on each other and strive to make each other a better person and a better human in the first place every day. And I would definitely like to mention over here, Khushi, that when you take up such kind of a journey where you are very much sure that you are willingly choosing to be in hell all the time, so your family support becomes very, very important. So I'm totally blessed to have a family where I'm staying in a joint family. So I am helped in everything by them, in terms of moral support, in terms of encouragement, in terms of managing the daily chores. All I do is I get up in the morning, I do my rituals, and I come to work, because I don't have to take care of the house responsibilities, because my mother, my mother-in-law, everybody is taking care of it. So more than me, I think those are the entrepreneurs who are helping us succeed in our journey. So yeah, that's the simple fundamental that we follow, that we are partners in everything. And one thing I would definitely like to talk about, Khushi, here is that the source of the problem and the solution in any relationship is communication. So that's one thing that both Gaurav and I keep as priority, that whatever feeling, whatever problem we are going through, we will talk to each other, right? And we'll not like to bury it under the carpet, and one fine day we understand that it's become turned into a volcano. Because a lot of friends told us while we took this step that don't do this, don't put your relationship on stake. When partners work together, there are more fights and they split and that. I was like, empathy is more important than ego, right? So when you keep your ego aside and learn to empathize with each other, focusing on listening to why this person is saying like this rather than aise kaise bol diya mujhe, right? So I think things turn out much better. So that's the way we manage our responsibilities.
That's so beautiful. So, when was that time? Like, as you said, you were pushed into entrepreneurship. So, when
Yes.
was that like time when you realized, Mr. Gaurav could be your business partner? Like, you can ally with him.
So we both are actually what we like to call as accidental solopreneurs in a way. But you know what, Gaurav is much more experienced than me. He's got about 25 years of working in sales, and also he's started up a lot of startups of his own in the past. So when he was in this last organization in the corporate, as I told you, there was a corporate burnout. I did work on my business and grew it to a level where I could say, okay, please quit, right? And that's when he moved out. And once again, he had no idea or want to be a part of my business. He said that I'll take some time off and I'll find a new job for myself. I was struggling by myself, because one of the biggest things, I think you will connect to it the most when you're a solopreneur, is managing your time. There is so much to do in the day, and you're not able to figure out when do I sell, when do I market, when do I do the operations part of it. And that's one of the most agonizing parts that once again solopreneurs fall into as a prey, is that you get a client somehow. If you're trying to struggle and get one, and when you get that client, you start working with that client, you start giving them a lot of breakthroughs and everything, and by the time that you've submitted your final invoice to them and you put your head up and you see there's no more client anymore, right? So that's where then once again the struggle starts. Now where do I get the new client? All right, so I totally get that. So when I was going through that period, but still somehow I had managed to crack the code and get those clients coming back to me again and again, I wanted to scale my work. And that's when I told Gaurav that you've worked with startups so much in the you've started your own work for a very long time. Why did you help me in making some consulting work? When I told him I'll hire you as a consultant, okay, do some work for me, like full tashan and all. So he said, okay, fair, what is it to be done? So I said that, how do I automate my work and how do I take it to the next level? Why don't you help me with that? Now, while he got into the journey as a consultant and started to understand the nitty-gritties of it, I think that's when his solopreneur also kind of got ignited. And they always say that make that person as your partner whom you can trust with your life. Skill set doesn't matter, because skill set can be brought up at any point in time if the person's willing. But if the person resonates with the ideology of who you are as a person and what you want to give back to the other person who's your customer, that's your ideal partner. So I think that's when our work ethics matched so much that we kind of looked at each other like, boss karna hai kya? And he said, let's jump into it, and that's how it happened. So nobody selected anybody. I think it was a very organic and natural coming together.
I mean, wow, like really wow. I mean, that's an incredible journey. And yeah, like, I really want to know what was that code that took some time to crack the selling code that you're saying, I was figuring out how to crack that code. So what was that code exactly?
So that code, Kushi, is something, very, very, very simple, right? And I personally believe this, and I would definitely like to call it out over here, that we as humans, as solopreneurs, love to complicate our life, right? Everything is very simple. Life is very simple. All you have to do is breathe, right? But we'll complicate everything in our life. This is not happening, that's not happening. And the same thing, our personalities we put into our business as well. ये भी करना है, वो भी करना है, ऐसे भी करना है. मुझे बहुत कुछ सीखना है. I want to just upskill myself. It doesn't happen that way. The first and the foremost point and the existence of you as a business person, a business builder, a solopreneur is to sell and sell consistently. That's the first realization that happened, which a lot of people still don't understand. They keep on struggling and they don't want to agree to it because they have to break their existing self-image and want to become the other person. So that day I stopped calling myself anything else, but I call myself as a sales dominator. I am a person who dominates the sales in every characteristic, because more than the skill, your mindset is the most important thing, and I will always stand by it. So first you need to change and start believing that you are someone who can do sales. I'm sure you would also agree there are a lot of solopreneurs who would say, yeah, sales is not for me. It's very tough. I don't think so I can do it. I talk very less. And you know what? Sales require very smart and eloquent kind of people who can just turn around a conversation. It doesn't happen that way. You just have to be very, very authentic. You have to be very, very honest and true and extremely confident in your product and service. That's it. Because sales is just 3 simple steps: attraction, engaging, and conversion. That's it. And you need certain things right from in these of each 3 steps to execute it, and your sales is the smoothest thing that you can get done. But just like I say spirituality, people feel that how can life be so simple? I don't believe it. It's the same way. How can sales be so simple? I don't believe it. We do not want to buy into something which is simple. We want to believe that it's all about getting those fancy tools and landing pages and funnels and this and that. It's not. It's like getting married to your customer to understand what their real pain is and stop pushing your passion to market, which I'm sure in one of the conversations I will definitely like to break this myth into people's life that your passion will not pay you, right? Solving a problem for which people are willing to pay will pay you, right? So understanding what that real problem is, getting your customer, breaking their attention in this online world, because I believe in online sales completely. If you're not selling digitally in today's world, then you are a nomad. You need to go back and relive your civilization to this place. So the idea is to break their attention, get them into your world, engage with them, and not be pushy about your selling right at the moment they're there. And when you keep on giving them that value that they need in a persuasive manner and not an informative manner, that's when they will come back to you and say, please help me out. Because I believe in pull sales, I don't believe in any push sales. And push sales happens through information. Pull sales happens through persuasion. Because in today's time, Khushi, I don't think so we are fighting or competing against with other solopreneurs. We are actually fighting against organizations like YouTube, like Google, who are bloody putting everything out there for any customer to feel, why do I need to pay this person when I'm getting this information for free, right? So that's the perception that you need to change in you first, from the mindset and your skill set level. And I think the smoothest and the easiest thing ever to do is sales.
I mean, yeah, that was an informative answer, especially the line you need to persuade, like you need to attract in a persuasive manner, not in a informative manner. I think that is one of the greatest, like I think this is the thing that solo entrepreneurs like face daily, and this is the biggest like haphazard they are creating for themselves.
True. Yeah. I totally get it. I know my customers, right? So I get it.
So it happens with me quite often while I'm on a client call and everything is going good, and then finally, like when I have to quote like the price, I get like blank.
Right.
I'm confident in my services and I'm confident in myself, but while I'm quoting the price, it's just something that just tells me, are you quoting the right price? Are you quoting too much or are you quoting too less? So how,
Yes.
and that's where the customer can feel the fumble in my voice. and then they like kind of say you don't seem to be confident in your services, but that's not the case. It's just I want to like quote a genuine price to my services. I'm like, I'm not able to believe, I was just a teenage girl a few years back and living on my parents' money, and here I'm like earning money. So that moment kind of give me, trembles. So how to deal with such situation? Ma'am, your voice is
Okay, first of all, you're not alone in this. I have gone through it. A lot of people go through it, and I think majorly everybody goes through it. Let's not even undermine this as an issue out here. So let's understand this from a perspective. So I totally get it that doing the money talk really fumbles people. It kind of many people shit in their pants because of this conversation, and you will put up a great sales presentation, everything is going on well, but the moment those price discussions happen, we fumble, we start talking about everything else on the planet but just getting straight to the point, and the other person feels, am I really dealing with the right person out here? And that's where the answer is like, okay, I'll come back to you, let me discuss with this person and I will get back to you. These kind of questions come in. So let me help you with a small example out here. So a couple of days back, my mother, she was facing a lot of toothache, and she said, I need to visit a dentist. And I said, fair enough, let's go out there. So the moment we entered the dentist's place and he made my mother lie down on their chair, he said that, ma'am, could you just open your mouth? And he had a small little needle or something that he just pricked at one place, and my mother just screamed the hell out, right? And he said, okay, now I understand where the problem is. Please, let's step out and talk. And he said that so-and-so has this happened. She's got some kind of allergy. And there are two options to it. One solution will cost you around 44 grand, and the other one will cost you 56 grand. Guess what my mother would have said?
I mean, maybe do the cheaper one, or like what is the difference in both of them? Like what will...
Very good, very good. But here's what happened. She was in that freaking pain that he had pricked, that she said, I don't care, I don't want to go for the cheaper option, fix it and get me the 56 one. Right. Now let's understand this from a very simple selling perspective. Why did the customer tell to the seller that I want a better option?
To get an instantaneous solution to the problem.
Because the pain was unbearable. And the doctor exactly knew where to prick to make the patient act and say, forget the cheaper version, fix this bloody thing right now. It's the same way every sales conversation happens. The reason why we fumble, where I used to fumble, was precisely because of two reasons. One is conscious and one is subconscious. I'm going to get to both of them. The conscious reason is what we are talking about right now. And that is, a lot of us just jump into the solopreneurship journey because we think we are very good at something and that something is needed in the market, right? Now, a lot of us want to believe that we understand what our customer wants. But the answer is no. Because you need to understand two very, very important things. Who are you dealing with and what are their pains? And I call this, at the Sales Dominator, we call this finding your unique bragging point, right? Calling yourself as a graphologist, a copywriter, a coach, or a consultant. There are so many out there, right? There is artificial intelligence now, which is coming into play, where companies may not even need these kind of people anymore. So the question out here is, have you studied a specific set of person who is really going through a pain for which they are willing to pay? At TSD, when we focus at solopreneurs, specifically coaches, consultants, and service-led businesses, you know how many pains, problems, aspirations of these people have we come up with? Guess the number.
Maybe more than 5,000 or something.
Oh, that's too much. That's too much of it. But here's the thing. Close to /10, we have 500 pains, issues, and aspirations of our dream client. That's when you come to know that whether you're solving a solution or not. People believe selling is about veg out, talk about it, and sell. No, that's when you get desperate. We need to get to understand, or rather every person who wants to excel in sales, the first step is to get intimate with your customer, right? Not know them. intimate with your customer. Know every freaking thing about them, because you just need to know that one point that just like the doctor, you can also prick on, and your customer says, Khushi, solve my problem right now, I'm willing to pay. So this is the conscious thing, because you fumble in that point while quoting your price is because you're not confident. If you're really solving a pain of that customer, which is making them toss and turn in the bed at night. Because if you are, you will rather have multiple layers of your services and say, these are the 4 options, please choose for yourself, because you're so confident that they will pick one of them. Right? So the first thing is consciously, please, I'll suggest everyone who's watching this out there, please put in the work. You can't run away from the work and feel that sales will happen automatically, and you put in those fancy funnels and templates and click funnels and all of that. No tools, no landing pages can ever help you if you're not doing the work that's needed. So get intimate with your customer consciously, because only then as an outcome, Khushi, will you be able to be confident about what you're selling. And unless you're confident about your service, nothing's going to work out.
Sometimes
subconsciously.
It also
yes, go ahead.
Like I kind of, know beforehand what is the budget of the client, and the client has not told me his or her budget, but so I know already. And that's also like sometimes I am, like I'm I don't have leads, but the budget is not matching. And that's also one scenario where I fumble a lot while quoting my price, because I know the other person would not be able to pay. And I also know the other side, that I want a client direly.
Right. A good question. And the answer is still the same. If you know your customer, you know exactly whom you want to deal with. If there is a person who is not following the criteria of what your ideal customer should be like and what's their capacity to pay, why would you ever want to waste time with people who don't even have the money to afford your services? It's only because what you just now said is because you don't have any other, so you'd like to latch onto them, like just suck them out and want to say that ab ye nahi hai to kuch nahi hai, right? So at that point in time, you're willing to underprice your services. You're willing to compromise on anything, or maybe somehow or anyhow beg them to pay you what you want, but you will put so many over bonuses, extra services, that you would feel, yeah, is it really worth it? So it all boils down to the same thing. There are 2 things I'll quickly tell you on this. Number 1, unless you're willing to put in the work to get to the real pains and aspirations of your customer, and understanding if that problem is pay worthy, right, nothing is going to work. Number 2, you need to have a qualifier for your business. A qualifier is nothing like, say, let people fill up say 15 point questions before they actually come and see you. People just drop in one-liners on LinkedIn. Hey, I see you're doing good, I would like to talk. And we just jump into conversations. Oh my God, I got a lead finally. And we will talk to them and give them everything, our sweat, blood and everything. Just pay me. I've been there, but it doesn't happen that way. Even if you're doing that one-to-one sales conversation for free, have a pre-qualifier. Because that pre-qualifier will help you know your customer much before they know you. And let me tell you one thing, Khushi. You will exactly come to know when you have started growing in your business is when you'll have the confidence to reject your customers rather than accept them. So you will have the power to say, I don't want to work with you. There are 10 more people standing in the queue. So goodbye. See you tomorrow. Right. Wow. So that's the power that you need to get, because let me quote it in one sentence. Price only matters in absence of value. I've had people who've had their fathers admitted in hospital still telling me that, Aneha, I want your services, and they've borrowed money and paid. I'm not boasting about it at all. I'm bragging. I'm saying you need to know what your customer wants, and they will give you anything. Price is never a problem. It's just over here. We want to believe in that. So that's the way it goes.
That's a powerful answer. I've got my question. Now I know like where I'm lacking. Like, yeah.
Sure.
So, there is a lot of importance that has been given to following up with unpaid clients. So what is your take on that? Like, yeah.
So I'll be very upfront. We believe in no follow-up sales. If you like my work, you pay everything upfront. If you don't like my work at the end and I'm not giving you 200%, I'm happy to refund, but I don't believe in follow-ups. So I may not have an answer to that because I don't do follow-up sales at all. People pay 100% upfront, whether it is a low-ticket webinar or a conversation that they're having with us or a high-end consultation. You have to pay in one shot, in one go, before I spend my time with you. So yeah, that's the way it has to go about it. And for people, who like to follow up, I just like to ask them the question, why do you want to do that? To yourself, right? Be so confident and guarantee so much about your work that your customer is saying, write it to them that if I don't deliver 200%, sign a contract, sign it, then if I don't give what is expected and more than that, your money will be refunded. That's much better, because at a core level, I'd like to believe that you're an ethical person. Everybody's an ethical person. You will refund it. But following up for me is like when you're trying to put yourself out there as an expert, experts don't follow up. A doctor doesn't follow up with me after the surgery, bache hue paise de do, right? So it's about the same thing, how you position yourself, and you say, I charge 100% upfront. If you like it, good for it. If you don't like, fair, give them a price point. Set, for example, let's assume you're charging 50 grand. Your services will start from the point you have paid 650 grand, right? Give them 15 days. Pay one slot right now, pay another slot after 7 days, and the third one on the 15th day. They've paid 16th day, jump onto the call with them. That's the way I work.
Yeah, I was introduced to sales and marketing in my corporate job that I got at the age of 19 from my college. So
Okay.
yeah, I was hired as an academic writer, and I don't know like what maybe I like in these companies, the like small business, they kind of use the students, the fresh students for sales also, and academic writing also, like all the
Right.
departments, like they can shift the people as per their convenience. So
Yes.
I was shifted to sales and marketing after 2 months, and my like job was to chase people, to follow up people.
Okay.
So, yeah, and I have to like chase around 80 to 100 people in a day. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, that's a huge number. All right.
And yeah, and they were like already, they were the clients who had been already sucked by the company, and yeah, and they have like kind of denied that they don't want the services, or they have like kind of bad experience, and and I have to like build that trust again, and even I didn't had that trust in the company because I know how was the system.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that was so like kind of I was in a great dilemma, like following up is so crucial to earn money. Are you losing a lot of money if you're not following up your client now? Because when I'm a solo entrepreneur, even I have that same kind of leads, who like the people who approach me once and then they take time and they disappear, they never. So I'm like I'm in a dilemma. Do I need to follow up with the same pattern that like they were doing? So yeah, I thought, you must be the best person to guide me on this thing.
So why do you have the need to go back to the same customer?
For example, like if
So someone's written to you, someone you had a conversation, they say, I'll get back to you. Assuming that's the scenario.
Yeah, exactly.
Why do you have the need to go back to that person in 15 days?
For example, recently I was not, I think, putting enough work, and the recently month was like kind of dried out. So I didn't keep leads in pipeline, and that's where I felt the need to go back to the clients, the unpaid clients.
Okay.
Not
So you've
clients,
answered the question. Prospect, right? Those are prospects. Now, the reason why you need to go back to your prospect is, and this is a very brutal truth, please take it with a pinch of salt, is because you know you don't have others in the pipeline, right? You would not want to go back to a person and rather wait and give out so much to the world and make that person a part of your ecosystem, even if they're unpaid, that they will understand your value and come back to you. The only reason why you have to keep on following up and going back to those people, that there's nothing, as you said, everything dried up, right? And that's exactly what at TSD we do for people. For all the coaches, consultants, and business owners, we say that we will help you with a predictable number of high paying, or not even high paying, high quality, because high paying is very subjective, right? How about getting into a zone or a space where you get predictable number of right prospects? I would say, let me give it to a number, 45 to 50 right prospects every single week who are eager to buy from you. Would you like to be in that space?
Yeah.
If you have that, do you think you'll have the need to follow up? No, because you have a pipeline which already it's putting you in a space where you feel, boss, there's so many people to serve. What do I do, right? That's the position we want. We put solopreneurs, in this case, service-led solopreneurs, in. Get 45 to 50 right quality prospects every single week, guaranteed, and that's where you scale your business to 6 figures and beyond. That's the reason, my friend, you need to learn how to build that like a sales machine. If you do not have an automated sales machine for you, and you keep on have to going out to people to follow up, Hanji, meri service le lo, see how good I am, doesn't work like that. So you need to invest in your learning, invest in the tools and techniques that are required to put a sales engine, so that your job is only to meet people and convert, and you only have those people coming to you like a free flow every single moment, every single week, every single day. Because if you have this, Khushi, and this is for everyone who's listening this, if you have this sorted out for your business, where you're getting free, predictable, let me put this way, predictable and consistent, 45 to 50 or any number of eager to pay clients to you every week, every day, there's nothing more satisfying in this world than owning a business. Otherwise, it's a constant struggle. It's inconsistent income, it is stress, it is nothing much but compromising on your lifestyle, but everything else. So that's the way one needs to go about it. Learn to predictably attract, engage, and convert 45 to 50. In your case, I'm talking about prospects who are eager to buy from you week on week. That's it.
Somewhere I also know why it is happening, because I have to do all the work, the content writing part also, and the sales and sales thing also. So sometimes it happens like I think I don't have that enough capacity. Like while I am like so engrossed in a work, I'm putting my heart and soul into writing.
Sure.
So that time the sales kind of get like in a corner. Yeah. And then there is the problem when I like deliver the work, and yeah, I mean, now it's up to client if he want to work in the future with me or not. I cannot pull him with me. So that's where I've delivered my work and then I don't know what to do. So that's where I get stuck.
So I think I just spoke about it. You got to learn how to create that sales engine. You can't be, see, when I talk about scaling a business, scaling always happens through digital medium, right? Because one-to-one as a capacity is limited, right? How about being in a space where you're holding, say, conversations with, you have a calendar for yourself where you have put slots 4 hours in a day for your one-to-one conversations with prospective clients, and all those slots are automatically filled up. And all you have to do is just get up, look at the questionnaire that they have filled in, and get onto the call, solve their problem, and say, boss, now pay. Right? That's the time where you just know that you need to segregate your time for two things. One is doing these conversations with your clients, converting them, and then giving them the operational support to get things done. Right? It's once again breaking the myth out here. We want to put ourselves into that stress zone. Look, I am a solopreneur, how victimized I am. I have to do so many other things. Things are not happening for me. Bechari mein. Doesn't happen the way. You need to tell yourself there is something you need to learn. And when you learn that something, things will happen. Right? And that something is nothing much. How do you automate a chain of predictable, consistent clients that keep on coming to you like clockwork even when you are sleeping? Right? Your calendar needs to be full all the time, and that's the part of your work that needs to get automated, because gone are the days for how long you'll keep on writing messages to people on LinkedIn. People don't have time to respond. I was like, why will I even bother to respond to anyone? And I get so many of them every single day. Hey, I'm good with copywriting, please reach out to me. Hey, I'm good with graphics, please reach out to me. I edit good videos, I was like, really? First of all, if that's your sales pitch, you've lost me as a customer. Right? I don't want to look at you at all. Second, there's a capacity and a limit to do things like this, and I've done this. And that's when I realized that unless you digitize this cycle of yours, unless you automate this cycle of yours, and it's just 3 simple steps, you put this into action, things will happen. The only thing that you need to be ready with is to learn that skill and willing to invest both in learning and getting the right tools. That's it.
Yeah.
Only you can end your struggle. That's it. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, that was an informative answer, but I hope the process takes time, because with your answer, I feel that I'm going on the right track. It's just I'm getting impatient. Sorry. Like I've been a solo entrepreneur for the last 6 months, and now it's the time to scale up. And now why it's not happening? So maybe I need to give some more time. I need to be patient with the process that I'm working on.
Sure. The only thing that one needs to understand is that unless you automate this part of your work, you will forever be struggling. So yeah, that's the thing you got to learn for yourself, and things will happen.
Thanks a lot. So, continuing with this, in your opinion, what would be the, right approach to follow up? Like, then you don't believe in following up, so you, so let's not take this question. I would love you to enlighten us on, on your second baby, that was Think on Purpose, the business that you launched before this, Sales Dominator.
So actually, Think on Purpose, as you rightly mentioned, is the first baby which I started with way back in 2017. That's the part of my business that I really struggled with because I did not know how to sell. And that business was all about helping people break their, or rather, let me rephrase, that's the business that was all about helping people recreate their self-image and take the required actions in their life to get things done. So break your procrastination, take action, and get things done. It's as simple how it was. So that's the time where I realized that what I was trying to sell to the market was something that they're getting for free, right? Those motivational videos and everything online. So that's the time when I realized that I need to shift the way this needs to work. And that's why I kind of went targeted and charged behind a particular set of people, which would be the people who are in the corporate, and helping them and rephrasing this entire thing as calling as, say, declutter your decision making at work, right? So one of the things that gets really impacted by your mindset and your procrastination is your ability to take decisions, right? So when I started doing that with people, that the business kind of became to the next level, and that's when I kept on repeating my I would say the process of attracting, engaging, and converting clients. After 2 years, I realized that the code is made and the system is out there which I can give out to people, and that gave the birth to the Sales Dominator, which is the brand that we're working with under now, to helping people get double their clients' sales and profits in 60 days. That's
Beautiful. Beautiful. I mean, yeah, that was, I mean, you have like kind of summed up in 5 minutes, but it must be a long journey. And yeah.
It was.
So, do you believe in you have said, like, people believe in setting marketing funnels, expensive marketing funnels, but somewhere do you feel apart from being authentic and attracting, engaging, and converting leads, is it essential to set up a marketing funnel?
Of course it is. So I totally believe in advertising. The point is not about how much budget you put behind your advertising, but the quality of your advertising. And when I say that, what I meant was that before knowing and getting into the of understanding that whether you're solving a problem which is pay worthy, people just jump into to pick up tools and techniques from everything which is flashy, which I call as the shiny object syndrome. That anything that seems flashy, you just jump onto it. Okay, if I go to this, I buy this tool, sales will happen. If I buy this landing page, sales will happen. But they're not willing to look inside and say, if sales are not happening, there is something wrong with my messaging. Right? So it is always a combination of messaging to what market and the kind of offer, an irresistible offer that you give to people which they cannot say no to. Right? When you got this right, then put in funnels. Right? And funnels are and attraction, engaging, and conversion is a funnel in itself. Right? Because unless you get people attracted to an offer which they're unwilling to say no to, unwilling to say no to, you would not be able to get them to your ecosystem. And when you get them to your ecosystem, that's when you nurture people with consistent value add. Because one thing we all need to understand, not everyone will buy from you. And you need to be comfortable with the fact. But you also need to understand that you need to start a journey with those people, a relationship with those people who are not willing to buy from you now, but they may buy from you later. A lot of people believe that if they put out those selfie videos and content online, that's value adding. No, it's not. First, allow people to come into your world. That's where product layering or service layering is what, when we talk about in TSD, the process is that always have a front end and a back end service or a product for yourself, right? Not everyone is going to pay you high right on the go, right? So allow people to enter into your ecosystem, engage with them, move them from just being online traffic to eager to buy prospects. And when they are in your world, when you're actually talking to them, speak in a way that makes them pay. Right? That's it. These are just 3 steps. Break their attention in a cheap and affordable manner. I always believe ads should not be expensive. 1 rupee you put in your ad, it should get you 3 to 4 rupees back. Right? So cheap, affordable traffic when converted into eager to buy prospects in bulk, not one at a time, in bulk. And then when you interact with them, all you need is a script, a way you need to speak to them that makes them pay, because the reality of your sale always comes in the time when you ask them to open their wallets. Because if that's not happening, no amount of ads, no amount of messaging will ever help you. So I firmly believe in funnels, but I firmly believe in creating the right funnels which are affordable and get you the maximum return. And I don't believe in, I think Gaurav will also agree to this, that we do not believe in subtle marketing. Your marketing needs to be bold, because only then you will have your customers' attention. Otherwise, there's a lot of subliminal things that are being put across. Give a guarantee, give a promise, give an offer to your customer that they can't believe in the first go. Give a guarantee, give a promise to your customer that makes you feel restless at night. Oh shit, promise to kar diya, kar paungi ki nahi? That's when you're on the right journey with your marketing and your sales. So that's my fundamental.
Yeah, that's a powerful statement. I was completely able to relate. Now, when you were saying, don't, like, many people are doing subtle marketing. I was already on my LinkedIn feed where a lot of people are doing subtle marketing. They are like creating content that is not like directly selling, but they are like narrating their stories. But yeah, that is subtle. I think that is an example of subtle marketing. And then
Exactly. See, both are needed. Let me be very honest, Kushi. Both are needed to create a great balance. You can't be out there every day that buy this for me, buy this for me, buy this for me. That's not bold marketing is all about. Bold sales and marketing is all about taking the right problem and then telling people that how can you solve that problem or how they need to solve to pay you that attention is where it is most important. Because just putting out videos which are informative, ye kar lo, aisa kar lo, vaisa kar lo, which is once again coming back to the same point I started with, not information but persuasion, is going to help you out. And I would not like to quote it in any other way, because it's very important people get to know this very early in their journey, because the struggle then feels very sad and very bad.
Yeah, it's a very strong statement, and I have also learned this, I mean, in this episode. So thanks a lot for saying this statement.
Pleasure is mine.
So lastly, I would like you to break a women-oriented myth with regards to having an entrepreneur or having a business or entrepreneur startup.
Women oriented myth. Now you've asked me a very difficult question now. Women oriented myth. Well, I'll see. There's one thing that I have found when I was doing my market research for the Sales Dominator, is that I don't see a lot of women who are into sales directly. Right? I foresee this, that people may sometimes want to believe that it's a very male dominated place. A lot of women I have seen, they're now stepping up to entrepreneurship, because I think the kind of support they are getting in and the kind of realizations that they are going for themselves in terms of their own independence and they need to be standing up for themselves. I think that's the way it is. I don't in particular have any myth that I would say that women think like this and that's why they don't do things. I think to each his or her own. It's very easy for me to pass a comment about women in general out here, but everyone has their own journey and there is a reason for them to be the way they are. All I can just say is that whether you're a man or a woman, you just need to be happy with what you're doing. Right? And I'm talking about in terms of the entrepreneurship journey. And if you're not, then you need to question. You need to question, because answers lie within. And if you don't know the answers, please get with a person who can ask you the right questions. So that's about it. And I think entrepreneurship or anything, it's for everybody. Gender does not play a role. Your skill set, your ability to learn, and your desire to grow. That's the part that plays a role.
Yeah, that was a powerful ending to this podcast episode. And thanks again for coming on to the Women's Stories.
Thank you so much.
I've been waiting, for long to finally have this conversation with you, because I had a lot of questions piled up.
Pleasure is all mine, and I'm really happy to see that at such a young age you have taken this journey up, and very proud, because it's not easy, and people need to take this by when you take this by choice. Those are the people I really, really respect, because consciously you've chosen to be forever in a state of flip-flop and floundering. And that's I think not a lot of people take it, but for people who do, I think they trust themselves a lot. So keep up with it, and I'm very, very proud of you.
So